to thine own self be true, right? Is that not what we learned from Shakespeare? You know, the teaching really is supposed to begin at home. You can't expect the classroom or a teacher to give your child all the information, because that teacher has a job to do, and she also has a curriculum that she's supposed to stick to. If we begin the self-love journey with our children, teaching them the basics, teaching them how to care for themselves, then that'll at least begin the process. You know, you're not going to lie to yourself, because internally your spirit knows the truth. And so many times and in so many different ways, we've allowed ourselves to lean on the words of others. A person can tell you a lie and you believe it because you think you know the person. But what if this person has a psychological issue? What if this person learned this based upon that person getting into trouble at home in his earlier or her earlier years? You know, you can believe what another person says, but what if that person isn't even sincere? There's a coven of people who have been doing this for years, telling a whole community lies, and the community believed them based upon the individuals that they felt were forthright. Only God knows who's truly forthright. You know, we can grow up around the people, but we don't always know the people. When I was in South Carolina, I started going to this church because my grandfather's no longer here. His church no longer was about. So apparently my grandmother and aunts and uncle began going to another church in South Carolina. Now, going to this church, the head of the church was a woman, okay? And my aunt told me, Anna told me that her siblings wanted the church. She inherited the church from her parents. And the siblings were going to fight her. And she said if she were not there, that the siblings would have pounced all over this woman. Now, apparently this is where they actually found themselves at the covenant, at this church. They were acting as though it were a church, but there are other things that were going on in this church. And it was said, you know, that, I just go on basically my own feelings. When I prayed there, my prayer was very different. Usually when you go into a church and you're praying, you feel uplifted. I never felt that way going to this church. I remember when I was trying to sing, my tonality, I could never reach a certain height at this church. Any other place I've been able to go to, it was almost as though there was like a silent chant that they would do at this church. And I was going because my grandmother, you know, I love my granny. I was going with my grandmother. But for some reason, I could not understand what was going on at this church. Now, I took a liking to the woman at the church, even her children. And I noticed she'd send her children far away, would not share any information about her children. She was very protective of her children. And her daughter's husband passed away. In covens, someone has to be sacrificed in order to make things stronger, the bond stronger, to gain certain things. It's important that you realize that while we are sitting here trusting everybody, You can't trust everyone. When I had that gut feeling, I should never have gone back there, but I did. They were trying to sacrifice me. They decided that they were going to hire a guy named Joe to take me out. The family took all their money from tax time, put it together, and he was supposed to be the guy who was going to do the job. He asked other people to do the job. Everyone trying to do a job. Now, when you see that you continuously try to complete a task and nobody wants to do the job, it's because of the rebuttal. It's because of what comes back to them. It's because of the karma. People, if you continue to do the same thing, and every time you do something, you get the back end of the stick. Or let's say your mother's going to slap you. If every time she goes to slap you, it hits harder than the last, why would you do it? People make a lot of mistakes, all because they think that they're going to get a big reward in the end. And, you guys have gone on lavish vacations. You bought different vehicles and homes, money overseas. You've done a great deal already. But how far have you come? You're still in the same spot. Some of you are in more debt than you were originally. If every time you decide to put your money together to go ahead and pay people to do things, to stalk, to be around this person, and the same things, in fact, that person seems to be gaining more ground, why continue? You need to go ahead and talk to God about it now, so that maybe you can gain forgiveness, and perhaps you can at least come clean with the situation, because just know you can't win in the end. Because while you were doing all these negative things against me, I was praying to God. I don't need to do anything against you, because I know that God already made certain promises that if I don't forgive you, or if I retaliate, I'm only going to lose in the end. So because I already know this, why bother? Sure, I've been hurt at times. Sure, I've been disappointed. Sure, I've been angry. But if you don't focus on you, no one else will. So while everybody's focusing on this one individual, when they should have been focusing on themselves, they would have gotten so much more out of the deal by now, instead of all the losses they've suffered. Hopefully you learn the lesson before it's really too late. Thank you so much for joining us. So lovely being you. Learn to love yourself and invest in yourself, and stop investing in hurting other people.